The year is 2011. On Spain's glittering Costa del Sol, sun-soaked villas and luxury cars hide a far darker truth. The Kinahan cartel has transformed the region into Europe's cocaine command center. Operating from the shadows of Marbella's glamorous streets, the Kinahans are now major players in the international drug trade, trafficking multi-ton shipments of cocaine from South American jungles, often rerouted through West Africa or Portugal to dodge law enforcement and tighten control. But this is no chaotic street gang. The cartel has built a reputation for ruthless discipline, chilling violence, and military-style efficiency. Marbella is more than a hideout. It's a nerve center where shipments are tracked, safe houses are loaded, and trusted couriers dispatch tons of product across Europe's black market. With deep connections to Colombian and Moroccan suppliers, the Kinahans control not just supply, but the price of cocaine itself. By then, the Kinahan cartel was at the peak of its power and influence on the Costa del Sol, something what can only be described as a lavish criminal lifestyle, a world of luxury, money, and violence hidden beneath the sun-drenched glamour of southern Spain. The Kinahans' inner circle settled in high-end villas in exclusive Marbella neighborhoods like Sierra Blanca and Nueva Andalucia, where properties are fitted with private pools, panic rooms, armed security, and ocean views. Marbella, Estepona, and Benalmádena became nerve centers for cartel operations. Driving top-of-the-line vehicles, Bentleys, BMWs, and Range Rovers, the cartel's senior members were often spotted in designer clothing and Rolex watches, blending in seamlessly with the Marbella elite. Many of them frequented upscale gyms, nightclubs, and restaurants, building a public image of success while conducting a hidden empire built on cocaine and blood. Ports like Algeciras and Malaga, along with remote coastal drop points, were used to bring in the product via container ships, private yachts, and even light aircraft. Once ashore, the drugs were stored in safe houses scattered throughout southern Spain, properties often fronted by legitimate businesses such as bars, real estate firms, and gyms. But their gyms were used not only to front funds, but also to maintain the cartel's soldiers and enforcers in peak physical condition. You see, despite the glitz, fear and violence loomed just beneath the surface. The Kinahans employed ruthless enforcers like James Quinn and Gerard Hatchet Kavanagh to deal with problems, often through brutal intimidation or murder. Debt collection wasn't a quiet affair. Associates who failed to deliver were beaten, tortured, or executed. Locals and rival gangs knew the Kinahan name meant one thing: untouchable power. But power in the underworld is a fragile matter, and the 2014 murder in an Irish bar in Alveria just outside Marbella marked a turning point, exposing internal tensions and the cartel's willingness to eliminate its own high-ranking members. Gerard Hatchet Kavanagh's name became synonymous with fear, violence, and cold efficiency. Originally hailing from working-class Drimnagh in West Dublin, he grew up in a world where loyalty and brutality could take you further than any education or job. As a young man, he quickly gravitated toward the criminal underworld, finding his place among Dublin's rising drug gangs and becoming a close associate of two notorious figures, heroin dealer Greg Lynch and armed robber Paul Rice. But Hatchet was never just another soldier in the ranks. He had the muscle, the mindset, and the menace to climb far higher. He rose to become one of the most powerful Irish drug dealers in Spain, a name whispered with fear from Dublin's back streets to the Costa del Sol's luxury villas. According to senior drug sources, Kavanagh's operation was raking in millions, flooding Tala and Drimnagh with cocaine, and securing a stronghold over large swathes of Ireland's drug turf. For nearly a decade, he ran his empire from Benalmádena, where his wife, Tracy Brady, lived like a society queen, their daughter dazzled on the elite show-jumping circuit, and their son was idolized as a professional boxer. Tracy and Gerard were teenage sweethearts. By 1995, Tracy, then in her early 20s, was listed as the full owner of their home at 24 Maybury Park in Tala. That same year, they welcomed their first child, Jamie. Jamie Kavanagh would go on to make his own name, not in the drug world, but in the boxing ring. A talented fighter, he rose through the ranks to become a respected professional boxer in the United States. But despite his success in the sport, Jamie's ties to the criminal underworld remained a shadow over his career. He maintained close links to Daniel Kinahan and the cartel figures his father once ran with in Spain. In 1996, at just 25 years old, Gerard Kavanagh was sentenced to 4 years in prison for dealing drugs in the Crumlin area. He was caught in a sting operation at Brickfield Park, with heroin and cannabis valued at around €4,500. He was also found carrying approximately €1,650 in cash, a substantial amount for someone who was unemployed at the time. During his trial in the 1990s, Kavanagh's defense lawyer claimed that Gerard was a drug addict coerced into working as a courier for criminal gangs. However, the Dublin Circuit Criminal Court was told that he was part of a drug distribution network led by major drug barons and had long been a key player in supplying drugs throughout Crumlin, Drimnagh, and Dolphin's Barn. In the mid-1990s, Kavanagh became a prime target not only for the Gardaí, but also for IRA vigilantes, landing on a Republican hit list. As late as 2012, he was still clashing with the IRA, famously telling the real IRA faction led by the late Alan Ryan to fuck off when they demanded a cut of his drug profits. Gerard was also the nephew of Jojo Kavanagh, a key figure in the infamous gang of the General Martin Cahill during the 1980s and 90s. Jojo Kavanagh was released from prison in 2004 after serving 7 years of a 12-year sentence for the botched kidnapping of former National Irish Bank director Jim Lacey and members of his family at their home in Blackrock, Dublin. The abduction was an attempted extortion aimed at forcing millions from the bank. After his release, Gerard Kavanagh joined forces with Tala gangster Paul Rice, and together they quickly climbed to the top of the drug trade. About a year before Kavanagh was caught with heroin, Rice had been sentenced to 10 years in prison after pleading guilty to a bank robbery that involved gunfire. When they teamed up, the pair became prolific drug lords, controlling the supply of drugs across much of Tala and large parts of Drimnagh. Meanwhile, Kavanagh aligned himself with the Kinahan organized crime group, led by Christy the Dapper Don Kinahan. The Kinahans, operating out of Dublin and expanding fast, were building a drug empire, one that would soon stretch across Europe, and Kavanagh proved himself invaluable. He wasn't a strategist or a smuggler, but something the cartel valued just as highly, an enforcer. Known for his intimidating presence and willingness to use violence, he earned the nickname Hatchet, a nod to both his temperament and rumored methods of debt collection. When someone owed the cartel money, it was Hatchet they feared. He was the final warning before the punishment came. As the Kinahans expanded operations to the Costa del Sol, Spain's glamorous southern coast, Hatchet followed. Marbella became the new front line for the cartel's drug empire, a paradise with a dark underbelly, perfect for laundering money, hiding assets, and importing cocaine from South America. Hatchet Kavanagh settled into the Spanish lifestyle with ease. After Tracy sold the house at Maybury Park in 2005, which was bought by Paul Rice a year later. Hatchet lived in luxury, but behind the scenes, he remained the same feared enforcer. According to law enforcement, he helped manage drug logistics, oversaw payments, and ensured the cartel's interests were protected by any means necessary. Hatchet Kavanagh operated as a senior drug distributor for the cartel in both Ireland and Spain, particularly the Costa del Sol. He helped manage the importation and distribution of cocaine, among other drugs, on a large scale. Authorities believe he had a significant role in laundering the cartel's drug proceeds through various front operations and businesses. However, there are no publicly confirmed or court-documented drug shipments directly linking Hatchet to a specific transport operation, which is typical of high-ranking cartel members who often insulate themselves from hands-on logistics. Nevertheless, law enforcement and investigative journalists have pieced together Kavanagh's suspected involvement in broader Kinahan trafficking operations. He managed cocaine shipments into Spain, overseeing their repackaging and rerouting to Ireland and the UK. Acting as the key link between South American suppliers, including Colombian cartels and European distributors, he enforced payments and maintained strict discipline to ensure the shipments arrived safely and profits were secured. Known for his brutal reputation as a ruthless enforcer, Hatchet used intimidation and violence to collect drug debts. He wasn't alone in this role. His brother Paul joined him and also became a debt collector for the cartel. In Ben al-Madinah, the Kavanaghs settled into a luxurious villa where they hosted lavish parties for friends and family from home, sparing no expense. Tracy indulged her passion for cosmetic treatments, undergoing several surgical procedures. She also began managing a beauty salon, something friends noted was the first time she had worked in years. Tracy spared no effort when it came to her children, providing everything they needed to nurture their talents and turn their hobbies into potential careers. Her teenage daughter shared her mother's love of horses, and together they threw themselves wholeheartedly into the competitive world of show jumping. Son Jamie received elite coaching to sharpen his skills in the ring, and eventually trained under America's renowned boxing coach Freddie Roach. Years later in 2016, he was among the fighters weighing in at the Regency Hotel for the Clash of the Clans event when 5 gunmen stormed in, targeting members of the Kinahan gang. Hatchet would return to Ireland up to 30 times a year, always in the company of his right-hand man, Rice. By 2014, Hatchet had crafted a glamorous life for himself on the Costa del Crime, but a mix of financial troubles and personal challenges was starting to threaten his champagne lifestyle. For years, Hatchet and Tracy had enjoyed flaunting their wealth, convinced that others looked on with envy. Yet beneath the surface, things were far from stable. Hatchet grew increasingly worried about debt collection back in Ireland, prompting him to travel between Spain and Ireland even more frequently. Tracy, sister of Gerard Brady and aunt to gang enforcer Greg Lynch, often returned to her roots in the Oliver Bond flats, where much of her extended family still lived. Meanwhile, Hatchet took refuge with his longtime friend Paul Rice at his home in Maybury Park, Tala. Rice was originally based in Ben al-Madinah, and when he returned to Ireland in 2012, many assumed he and Kavanagh had fallen out, but this wasn't true. In reality, Rice came back as a debt collector working for Christy Kinahan and Kavanagh. Meanwhile, Kavanagh himself also returned, determined to assert his power. Like many others in the drug trade, he was desperate for funds. His regular trips to the often rainy island were driven as much by the need to salvage his business interests as by a desire to escape the mounting pressures of his life and relationships in Spain. By 2014, whispers began to spread within the cartel. There were suspicions of betrayal. Some believed Gerard and his brother Paul were skimming drug profits or making unauthorized deals. In the ruthless world of organized crime, loyalty isn't just valued, it's demanded. And when trust is broken, the consequences are final. In September 2014, Hatchet's luck finally ran out when he was lured to his brutal end. On a sunny Saturday afternoon, Gerard Hatchet Kavanagh was enjoying a pleasant moment at Harmon's Fish Bar in Alveria near Marbella. A familiar face and regular at the spot, he sipped his drink and chatted casually with another patron, unaware of the danger closing in. Around 5:25 p.m., 2 masked gunmen entered the bar, their eyes locked on him. Sensing the threat, Hatchet tried to make a break for it, but before he could get away, they opened fire. 3 shots tore into his arm, followed by another 3 into his back. He collapsed in the doorway, only to be executed with final shots to the head. A stray bullet shattered the window of a nearby parked car as Hatchet bled out on the floor. There was no robbery, no warning, no hesitation. This was a professional hit, cold, calculated, and merciless. Witnesses would later describe the assassins as eerily precise, one of whom was cloaked entirely in black. The pair made a swift escape in a BMW, its engine left idling near the bar, only for the vehicle to be found burnt out shortly after, near a supermarket 3 miles down the road to Marbella. It is widely believed that Hatchet had fallen foul of members of the Kinahan gang and was killed for that reason, though the exact nature of the dispute is unclear. Though his murder remains officially unsolved, investigators believe it was a Kinahan-sanctioned execution, likely ordered by Daniel Kinahan or Thomas Bomber Kavanagh, Gerard's own cousin. The message was clear. No one is untouchable, not even family. In death, Hatchet Kavanagh became a symbol of how power works in the criminal underworld. He had risen from the streets to become a key player in a European drug empire, but in the end, the same violence he dealt for years came back for him, swift, brutal, and final. 6 months later in March 2015, it was his brother's turn. Like Hatchet, Paul worked as a debt collector for the Kinahan gang. However, suspicion grew that Paul was skimming some of the money he collected from Irish drug dealers for the cartel. Aware that his life was in danger, Paul moved from his home in Drimna to Drumcondra, hoping to stay one step ahead of those who wanted him dead. One day, as the father of two stepped out of the house he was renting and got into his car, his vehicle was suddenly rammed from behind. The attacker quickly approached and fired multiple shots through the windscreen, fatally wounding him. As the killer fled with an accomplice, their getaway car crashed and was abandoned. Before leaving, they set the vehicle ablaze in the middle of the street, erasing evidence of their deadly deed. That was it for today's video. What are your thoughts on today's topic? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to like the video and subscribe to our channel if you'd like to see our next videos.